the Kirtland bank scandal. Wilford Woodruff recorded this revelation by Joseph Smith about organizing the bank. He declares in the presence of fellows he names and others in the deposit office that he, Joseph, had received that morning the word of the Lord upon the subject of the Kirtland Safety Society. He was alone in a room by himself, and he not only heard the voice of the Spirit upon the subject, but even an audible voice. He did not tell us at that time what the Lord said upon the subject, but remarked that if we would give heed to the Lord's commandments, his, Joseph's, that all would be well. Wilford Woodruff's journal. So when Smith and his friends applied for a bank charter, you remember the story, they were turned down. They already had the banknote printing plates made, so they changed them to read Anti-Banking Safety Society, something like that, yeah. And Smith ordered notes to be issued anyway, and they were stamped to read Kirtland Safety Society Anti-Banking. You know, you could have got a clue when they issued a $3 bill. But after the bank and the Kirtland community failed, several former bank executives, all Mormons, testified that Smith and Rigdon had placed a chest filled with junk in their bank's vault with a thin layer of silver coins on top to fool people who wanted to check on the reserves, to let them know they had plenty of capital to support the notes. You know that Joseph Smith was caught red-handed by Emma, according to William E. McClellan, before receiving any revelation authorizing plural marriage, before receiving any sealing power. And this is, he scrambled to find a way to explain and legitimize his adulterous activity with the teen Fanny Alger. McClellan said, Emma Smith looked through a crack and saw the transaction in the barn. My wife has a favorite saying. And she doesn't even put it in a sentence. She just puts it out there and says, Lorena Bobbitt therapy. Church leaders and apologists evade linking Smith with his adultery and call it an authorized plural marriage. I don't know. Yeah. Joseph Smith lied to his wife. It's a terrible thing to be accused of having 7 wives when I can only find one. Those kinds of things. He lied to his mistresses. The church recently, in an Ensign article, September 2008, wanted to convince its readers that Joseph and Emma were totally honest and completely in love. Joseph and Emma sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G. I like to bring a more mature ambiance to all of this. They did not publish in the Ensign an August 18th, 1842 handwritten love letter that Joseph Smith, age 38, wrote to Sarah Ann Whitney, age 16, whom he had already secretly married without Emma's approval or knowledge. And the letter was to arrange a meeting between them. He used deception to keep his numerous sexual dalliances and clandestine, adulterous extramarital affairs from Emma. This is what the letter said, part of it. The only thing to be careful of, Joseph wrote to Sarah, is to find out when Emma comes, then you cannot be safe. But when she is not here, there is the most perfect safety. Only be careful to escape observation as much as possible. I know it is a heroic undertaking, but so much the greater friendship and the more joy. When I see you, I will tell you all my plans. I cannot write them on paper. Burn this letter. Oops. As soon as you read it, keep all locked up in your breasts. Only Joseph had the key. That's not in the letter, I think. It's inspired version. My life depends upon it. I close my letter. I think Emma won't come tonight. If she don't you fail to come tonight. Somebody's got to write a poem. Huh? No, it didn't. I meant for it to do that. I'm not wrong. Hold on a second, please. Don't look at my password. Intended marriage for the purpose of bringing about the purposes of God in these last days. I wonder what Elder Ashton would say about that. Of course, the story of the angel with the drawn sword used as a ruse with several women, that he was commanded by God to practice polygamy or he should be slain immediately. And only they could save his life by saying, yes. I won't tell you what my wife said Emma should have done to his flaming sword. I tell people my wife doesn't like to come to these, but in truth, I don't want her here because she's mean. Now, let's go through some lists. The Danites, a Mormon vigilante group, burned, plundered, and drove Missouri citizens out of their homes in 1838. Justice Morris described how he and others were directed to protect a fellow Mormon from prosecution by lying, to, quote, do it with such positiveness and assurance that no one would question our testimony. In an article in the Messenger and Advocate, June 18, 1845, Sidney Rigdon admitted that Parley P. Pratt advised church leaders how to support Smith and advised that we must lie to support Brother Joseph. It is our duty to do so. What power an organization has when authority figures can turn ethics and morals and principles on their head, and becomes your duty to lie to protect them. Above all else, do not betray your friend, Joseph said. He frequently reminded members that they should honor friendships above all else, even unto death. Loyalty trumps honesty in the LDS Church still. Joseph counseled the Relief Society sisters. No, don't wait. Don't be too overzealous in the search for wrongdoing and to be charitable toward the accused after counseling them to seek out evildoers just months earlier. Joseph Smith threatened Sarah Pratt after she turned down his proposal for marriage. Wife of Orson Pratt? Is that who Sarah was? Okay. Sarah recalls Smith's threat, I will ruin your reputation, remember that. Smith later launched an all-out public campaign against her and called her in the publication, probably whore, from her mother's breast. Joseph and the church must be saved. Still about Sarah Pratt. Somebody pronounce that name? Zariah? Okay. Signed a false statement against Sarah Pratt. It was added to dozens more slanderous and libelous statements, because some were verbal, some were written, to smear Sarah. Goddard confessed years later that Hiram Smith came to our house with affidavits all written out and forced us to sign them. Joseph and the church must be saved, said he. We saw that resistance was useless. They would have ruined us, so we signed the papers. Church leaders broke civil laws and lied to promote polygamy and protect Smith, and they engaged in character assassination to protect him. And that's from Richard Van Wagner's book. And of course, there's more examples than that we could use. The laws, the parishes, and others.